Have you ever felt bored of doing the same thing for a long time? What if you could only do one thing in one place for years and years? Well, that's what it was like for the stone man until Sara came along. Let's find out what happens. To journey with me, let's take a deep breath. Sara and the Stone Man by Francois and Frederick Yu. In the middle of the great hall of an ancient castle, a huge stone figure held up the ceiling. He had been crouching there for 100 years, and he was fed up with it. In the spring, crows nested in his ears. At night, baby bats slid down his nose. And in the summer, children carved their names on his toes. Then, towards the end of another dull day, the door to the great hall creaked open, and in walked a little girl called Sara and her dog. They came again the next day and the next. The giant stone man loved to watch them play and wished he could join in. He longed to tell her how boring his life was, crouching there year after year with nothing to do and no one to talk to. But he was too shy to speak. One day, the little girl did a whole series of tricks just for him. She danced and roller skated. She lay on her back and bounced the dog on her feet. She even pretended to be a horse. And suddenly, almost without realizing it, the stone statue found himself clapping and laughing. And do you know, the ceiling didn't fall in. Even when he bent down and picked up the little girl, who wasn't at all afraid. "How do you do?" she said. "Very well, thank you," he replied. "Thanks to you." And then he did something that he had dreamt of for 100 years. Shifting the little girl and her dog onto his back, he stood up and walked. But as one huge foot trod down on one great paving stone, it dipped beneath his weight, and all three of them fell down into a secret room beneath the castle, a room full of all sorts of odd things, swords and daggers and dressing-up clothes. Looking like knights in armor, they tried to find the way out down a long, dark tunnel. "I hope there aren't any monsters down here," said Sara. "Don't worry," said the statue. "I'm with you." Outside, it was a gray day. Masses of men in hats and macks were rushing to work, and no one noticed a giant stone man carrying a little girl and a dog. Another statue, who was fed up standing around all day with nothing to do, showed them the way to the docks, where a passing boat gave them a lift. When they reached a perfect sandy beach, the ship's captain dropped them off and said he hoped they'd meet again one summer's day. The stone man didn't waste any time. With a whoop of joy, he leapt straight into the sea and made the biggest splash you've ever seen. "This is fun," he said. "Imagine all the places we could go." Then, all of a sudden, his expression changed. "But what about my job at the castle?" he said. "Somebody's got to be there. We can't just leave a great big hole." "You're right," said Sara. "If I'm out much longer, my mommy's going to wonder where I am." Let's go home right now, they said together. No one ever found out about their secret day trip, although the guard at the castle did wonder if he'd been dreaming. Sara came to visit the statue every day. They played together, told each other stories about their great adventure, and wondered about another journey they might make together another day when she had grown up a bit. And twice a week, Sara brought all her friends along. The statue had never had such a good time, although occasionally when their shouting and laughing made his ears ache, he wondered what it would be like to be nice and quiet and bored again, as he had been for 100 years. The end. The Stone Man and Sara discovered not only their friendship, but also the idea of being balanced. We all need different people and activities in our life to be healthy and happy. There are times to play, times to work, and even times to just sit quietly and think. How about you? Are you balanced?